everyone, welcome back to Beyond Evolution, where we help you navigate this new world of AI. Today, we are talking about AI and entrepreneurship.
Hello, everyone. Again, welcome back. Today, we have a very wonderful connection of mine, Kenneth Lo, that I'm excited to introduce and have here. He's been a business mentor for me, and he's just a really good guy. So want to introduce him briefly, and then we'll go into our mindful moment. So Kenneth is an AI strategist with a passion for data and digital marketing. As a former Big Four consultant, now a startup advisor and angel investor, he helps entrepreneurs discover how AI can simplify operations and fuel growth at ZenBiz, which can be found at zenbiz.co. He shares insights from his experiences across startups and corporations, always keeping things practical and data-driven. Outside of tech, Kenneth is a 2-time Masters World Champion in track cycling and enjoys the thrill of competition. Welcome, Kenneth. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Mario. Thank you, Jess. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining. So we will start off the podcast with our mindful moment by grounding ourselves, removing any distractions from our day so we can be fully present in the conversation. If you're multitasking, feel free to skip this section, but we encourage you to follow along so you can clear your mind, release any tension from the past, and become fully immersed in this conversation. Welcome to your mindful moment. Wherever you are, sit comfortably. Let your hands rest naturally. If it feels okay, gently close your eyes or simply lower your gaze. Bring your attention to your body. Feel the points of contact, your feet on the floor, your back against the chair. Let gravity do the work. Notice the weight of your body settling in. Now, bring your attention to your breath. Inhale through your nose and exhale slowly through your mouth. Let your breath move at its own pace. No need to change it, just be aware of it. If your thoughts are still active, that's okay. Let them come and go, like passing clouds in the sky. Each time, gently return your focus to your breath. Take one full deep breath. Inhale, fill the lungs, and exhale, release any tension you may be holding. With each breath, feel your attention settling. Let the pace of the day slow down. Let the noise fade away. Now, begin to bring your awareness back to the room. Notice any sounds. Wiggle your fingers and your toes. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Let's begin the conversation.
Amazing. Thank you, Jess. I love that during the middle of a busy workday, I can take a mindful moment as a part of doing the work. So thank you for leading that. Kenneth, thank you again so much for being here. I honestly really appreciate you as a person, as a mentor, as someone who's, getting into entrepreneurship and getting into AI. I definitely look up to you and admire the work that you're doing. So I'm excited to hear more about you. And let's just start with what sparked your journey into AI and entrepreneurship and what led you to create ZenBiz.
Yes. Wow. First of all, I want to say it's like, I love Kung Fu. It was so zen. It was really good. Thank you. It was very grounding. Thank you, Jess, for that mindful moment to kind of collect ourselves and ground our souls. So, Mario, to get back to the question, how did we end up here? What are we doing here? Well, as recently as 2 years ago, I was working for a fund of funds. I was running the back office, the ITIS department, and that was a very fruitful experience. I didn't come from the finance background, but I learned so much about this opaque industry known as the PE, which is very VC focused. So learn a lot about the operation side of things, and then this thing called ChatGPT just started popping up. I said, "Wow, that was going to be mind shifting." And so I seized that opportunity. I say, well, I would like to use that and just specialize on one thing, is to, do AI automations for the financial industry. That was the thesis as of 2 years ago. And long story short, there was some personal medical journey and everything. It was a bunch of detours, and things are finally starting to happen, starting to put together.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I and many others will resonate with your introduction into AI, which is discovering it and being amazed by it. And, what we've talked about here and what I say a lot is like this wave that we're on, it's a big one. So yeah, you've really jumped right in, and I'm curious to hear how ZenBiz came about from when you discovered ChatGPT to where you are now with ZenBiz. How did you get there? How did you develop that?
Yeah, so it kind of goes back to where I came from. I was doing a lot of machine learning. I was dealing with a lot of data. Imagine with a private equity firm with just swimming in data, and then the de facto is using Excel, and then no matter how much memory you add to it, at some point it's going to crash and crumble on you. So that's when I got into machine learning Python and Pandas, and that was pretty cool. Except when I was able to put all the stuff and I hand this over to the business users, the associates and this minted MBAs from Ivy League schools and everything, and say, Ken, what do you expect us to do with it? I say, just hit that run button and just continue to get the charts, the coefficients, and all those what if scenarios. So that's when I realized, yeah, it doesn't matter, whether the technologies have always been there, but if the user interface or the use cases weren't very accessible, you're still kind of hitting a wall. And that's when really, ChatGPT, at the early days, you can really dump like a CSV file and get some meaningful analysis out of it. But now with 2.5 years into the democratization of AI, Gen AI, it's become a lot more capable. So the thesis right here is to, not only allow the big mega shops to have access to it. I think some use cases are very accessible to the solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, startups, and also SMBs. And so I would like to be able to kind of, bring some of these use cases. And it doesn't have to be the whole gamut. It can be just, one or two use cases. If you're able to get 20, 30% productivity gained from adopting AI, you're already ahead. And I would like to say one thing. Right now, it's not outrunning AI or outrunning anything. It's not outrunning the bear, right? It's outrunning your buddy.
Mm.
Yeah, I really think you can find opportunities within AI to help any business in any particular way. Being a new entrepreneur, I've been utilizing AI to really help me craft content that would take me, hours to do or weeks to do if I didn't have that tool. So I think any type of service, any type of business can definitely benefit from just even trying out something with AI.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's so many small to medium sized businesses. And I might clarify some acronyms that you used today, Kenneth, just for our listeners. But SMBs is small to medium sized businesses. And there's a ton of them that are still in need of implementing AI. So yeah, it's a massive opportunity. And I think we'll pass it along to Jess to kind of dive in a little bit deeper to what exactly you do with ZenBiz and helping SMBs.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So, with ZenBiz, how do you help businesses implement AI into their workflows?
Yes, I think it really starts with a honest reflection, right? Right. What kind of ping points is that exact business is having? I am working with a lot of entrepreneurs and small, medium-sized business owners, and they are in various phase of maybe product market fit. If it's like a SaaS company, and at some point maybe it's a go-to-market strategy, lead gen, right? Lead generation, some kind of funnel problems. And then, as you can see, once you get into the funnel problem, is like, where exactly is the problem? Is it top of funnel, tofu? Is it mofu, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, bofu? I mean, it's just fun just talking about, soybean products. Anyway, as you can see, there's a lot of rabbit holes to go into. So just to kind of throw a couple use cases out there.
So you're basically helping them solve problems, it sounds like.
Yes, and a very tangible, impactful way. It's not necessarily academic. It may not be like, we're looking at an LLM and trying to, fine tune anything like that. But like, what is accessible at our fingertips in a cost effective way that is, you get some quick return on investment, right? They may not be able to afford like, oh, let's do a 6-month pilot, and then it'll be another $100,000 engagement to get the white paper, and then we can get $1 million implementation, right? That is completely available, but it's also inaccessible to many of the people in the ecosystem.
Who's your target market, and what's the kind of revenue range that you target to help for small to medium sized businesses?
Yeah, it's funny, Mario. I just pushed out a LinkedIn a couple of days ago. It was for SCORE. It was interview about a SCORE mentorship program, and I was very honest about it. Right, my thesis coming out of the fund of funds was like, well, I would love to go back to the VC PE world and serve them as a clientele and things like that. But it turned out to be a little bit more challenging. And he's like, well, what track record do you have? I say, yeah, I work for a big firm for a couple of years, but like once you are soloed, that doesn't completely immediately transferred. So I started out with some people in my ecosystem I got access to. I got into a couple online writing programs. One is called Ship 30 for 30. Met a lot of independent creative creators. So they're all doing the digital products and things like that. And many of them started out, so they would have the lead gen problem. But what is funny is I just got home from Saratoga in California from a investor VC angel conference called Hustle Camp. So I joined this community called Angel Investment, Angel Squad, about 2 years ago. And, not only was I trying to, interested in getting deeper into the angel investment ecosystem, but I also got access, to this deal flow and things like that to kind of get deeper into the whole life cycle of venture capital and what it entails. And I met a guy in the morning as soon as I put in the parking lot in this beautiful redwood forest, and this guy would say, "Hey, what do you do?" And then we started talking, and then we got sidetracked. And then a couple hours later, I felt a little movement next to me, and it was like somebody. It was the same gentleman. He said, "Let's do business. Let's build some apps." The entire 3 days, we were just talking about some ping points, and many of us have the same problems. So either you find something that's a little overbuilt and then kind of dial it down, or you can build something in Airtable and then use Zapier and make to kind of jerry rig the whole system.
So you mentioned Zapier in one of the tools that you use. Is that one that you normally use? And are there any other specific AI tools or workflows that you use on the daily?
So, Jess, that's a funny question. Now, the current stage of AI tooling is like going to the farmers market on a weekend. It's like so many to choose from, and you can't really go to one place. There's a lot to choose from. So,
Mm-hmm.
of course, going to OpenAI will be the de facto, but you still have to do a lot of copy pasting, right? So, the current side of tooling is like, yes, Zapier is the most widespread. Uh, the cost effectiveness, there's a good question to follow up, and Make is a very comparable product. But I have been using NAN. They have a community edition, and you can self-host it very uh, economical. You can run something basically $8 a month, and you have unlimited workflows and the variety. You can do low code, so a business user, after some learning curve, you will be able to whip out, Airtable to Google, Excel to HubSpot and whatever. It's the same thing, but you have a little bit more control in a more cost-effective manner. So NAN is my favorite at this moment.
You said NAN?
And eight and. So is the
Eight.
and eight and, yes.
Have you used any no code coding tools?
So vibe coding is huge right now. I think that term got become popular maybe a month and a half ago. So I came from a CS background. I got a master in CS, but I haven't been coding actively for a long time, other than the Python, notebook and things like that. And when I started my consultancy, I started doing a lot of hackathons just for the heck of it, right? And then I either team up with a developer, so we're doing a lot of productization and things like that for them. But recently, it was actually on Valentine's Day, there was a hackathon in a place called it's called AGI house or something like that. It's somewhere in California, and I was by myself, and so I said, well, let me just do some vibe coding. It was just like, again, 2 weeks into that, so I was doing text prompt to code, right? At the time, Windsurf, or it was called Codium at the time, now it's called Windsurf. It was one of the sponsors, so we were using Windsurf. So I was able to come up with a couple ideas, and the idea was like a mood booster, right? So it's going to ask you a couple questions in a voice chatbot interface, and then it's going to create a little picture, and it's going to give you a little prompt with some music and things like that. So I mean, like, normally for a developer, maybe it's like a day, maybe half a day, but for me, I don't code day in and day out. I was able to use Windsurf, and able to come up with a prototype by the end of the day. So that was amazing. And other notable products are Lovable, V2, Bold, um, and even VS Code. All of them. You can do vibe coding now.
Very cool. Which one's your favorite?
I loved Windsurf the most, not only because I actually ran into one of the BD guys at a private event, and I was comparing that with I actually test drove Replit, V0. There was a couple other ones I was trying to, and I think because you can tap into different LLMs in Windsurf. At the time, it was probably the only one, and Sonnet. Cloud Sonnet 3.7 is the most capable, so I've been using Windsurf the most.
Awesome.
Surf is built to keep you in flow state, so that sounds very resonant with your energy, Kenneth. I'll have to check that out. I haven't heard it, so I'm glad you brought it up.
I have to say, it takes a little bit of a learning curve, right? Because like you can just prompt something, and then it will change too little or too much, and it will have ripple effect. So a lot of times you kind of going in circles a little bit. You got to triangulate. So I think it's great for prototyping, but if you completely don't know anything about coding, sometimes it could be a little bit of a circus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
can get messy really quickly.
we were talking about that in a past episode of like, we should really understand, a little bit about a coding background to really fact check or to kind of understand what the AI is doing in the background. Because if you don't know, you don't exactly know what to fix, right?
Yes, I 100% agree with you. I think if you going in not knowing anything, just like any AI use cases, it will be hard to even gauge the quality of the output. So
Mm-hmm.
I've been, talking to a lot of people newer to AI. Say, hey, pick a topic that you know quite well. Say, for example, I kind of know cycling a little bit. So I would just say, hey, I want to go fast. And what kind of program would you recommend? What kind of weight training exercise would you recommend? And because I have some lift experience in that world, I can kind of gauge, how close, how realistic those answers are, right? And then as you can expand into a little bit more brainstorming, that's where the gains start to rack up.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, with these new vibe coding tools, it seems like it's easier than ever to get an MVP going. So, do you think that that leads to increased competition with new businesses and startups? Are you seeing that already? And do you think that that will be the trend?
So the AI is evolving so quick. What we thought wasn't possible now is become like a closer reality. General intelligence, I think, is being a big one. So, and I also saw an article, I believe it was Benioff, that said that like what used to be impossible is now hard. What used to be easy is pretty much automated, right? So things are really shifting the spectrum. And so if you are doing a lot of like is pretty easy tasks that you repeat, day in and day out, those jobs will be, become harder to come by. So it's going to push that yardstick that much harder. And yes, I do agree there will be more competition now, will be a lot more prototypes. Or if they go production with it, I think the quality of the products from the vibe coding would be very questionable, right? But so there might be some of that, but I think it's going to make it maybe, something that used to take months to prototype now can be done in much quicker time. So it's going to make, software even better.
Amazing.
So, some founders feel pressure to use AI because it's trendy, but it's not always strategic. Where do you think entrepreneurs go wrong with AI?
Hmm. Well, I don't know if it's trendy anymore. I think it's a necessity. It's going to be baked into most software. I think any major software that don't have it on the roadmap or that haven't got it baked in already, a little far behind. So I think it's a necessity. It's a reality. It is a new reality. And instead of getting fearful about it, I think the best thing is to, get to know it, get to experiment it, get to play with it so you know how to manage it and work with it. Because I think it's not a question of whether it's going to come or not. It's like a matter of coexistence.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's a powerful statement to say like it's not trendy anymore. It's like it's almost baseline. And if it's not baseline for you, then you'll get left behind. That's big.
So I'm sitting here in San Francisco. I mean, I'm admittedly a bit of a bubble, but going to the conference, I got 250 people all over the VC founder angel spectrum, all over the world, and the theme was AI. It wasn't like how you're using AI. It's like how are you going to use AI to enhance what you have already done. So it's not a matter of whether you are adapting adding AI. Is like how do you enhance it to even more as the AI technologies are getting better every day.
Yeah, definitely. I think people who have a lot of experience in the world, right? They have a lot of knowledge under their belt, expertise in like a certain subject, say, it's sports or say it's psychology. And then they could utilize AI to enhance those skills even more
Mm-hmm.
or, develop whatever they want to develop, utilizing that knowledge and combining it with AI. But with the younger generation, I think that's an interesting view on it because they're not exactly experts in anything yet, right? They're like learning
Mm-hmm.
different things and they're trying to figure out, what works for them. And so I think I think it's interesting to see how we can utilize it with someone who has a lot of expertise versus, someone just starting out with
Mm.
limited expertise, and how do they best utilize it and pair with it.
I got some thoughts, Jess.
Okay.
So I've been doing a lot of solo brainstorming. I know it sounds funny. Whip out a custom GPT. I feed it some custom knowledge base, customize the prompt a little bit so I know exactly what we're talking about. When we say that I'm talking to a CMO. So I have a CMO chatbot and just like asking what if scenarios. And especially if you have access to like the reasoning model, it is so cool. It's like, in the past we have a retainer to like a consultancy, and we have like a 6-month engagement and have white paper and POC, proof of concept, and all of the waterfall. But in 20 minutes I was able to roast my virtual CMO and ask all these what if questions. And I skip a lot of pleasantries too. The side note, right? I think Sam Altman said that when people say hello or thank you, it's costing them like billions and billions of dollars because of the extra context that is going to require. So I'm very straight to the point, skip the pleasantries and ask the what if scenarios, and very pointed feedback to it. Say, no, that's man. No, I like that. They get into it more. And you can go into the kind of rabbit hole infinitely, right? It's up to you and say, oh, that's good enough for tonight. And then you can continue later. So you got access to expertise, right? The access to knowledge is now going to be everywhere. But one thing, I just want to kind of, have a call to action. Data builds models, but moments build relationships. It doesn't matter how brilliant you are and you're in a lab in a vacuum building all these great apps. You still need the human feedback to get some, user feedback. Once you get some traction, if you want to get some funding, you don't raise money in your garage, right? You got to go out and shake hands. And again, coming back from the 3 days in Camp Hustled, it was like I just never experienced. As I was heading out last night, a guy came to me. He was all excited. He said, "That gentleman just gave me a check. I wasn't even asking for it." And I was like, "Wow, this is how deals are made."
Absolutely. That's a really good segue into bringing up our biggest focus of this podcast, which is focusing on our humanity among all of these AI changes. It's really easy to feel really small and minimal compared to how incredible these tools are.
Mm.
So with that in mind, curious how do you keep that human aspect and like your own authenticity at ZenBiz
Mm.
among all of these AI tools? How do you keep that like warm, that heart to heart, human to human connection?
So, for example, I still remember back in the days there would be a person assigned in the back of a big conference room and taking notes, right? Not that long ago. Well, maybe I'm dating myself, but now you got AI note takers, right? You got 20 to choose from. AI, Zoom has it built in, and then you got Fireflies and Alta and Gotham, you name it. So instead of diverting attention, I know that whatever we're talking about will be captured, and I can use that to drive to the action items, the follow-up meetings. So now my attention is really into, I'm looking into your eyes. I'm reading your body language. I'm reading the room. I'm looking at Jess. That Jess seems pretty happy about where conversation is going, right? So now I think use AI to clear the noise, so that you can really focus on the human connections. I think that is going to be a superpower.
Yeah, that's kind of the theme that we've talked about, is like the importance of us leveling up our own emotional intelligence and our higher level thinking and reasoning and creativity. So I love that very much.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I think to add to that, I think it's great that like you're focused on eliminating the things that don't exactly matter as much, with the note taking and all that. You want to create those relationships, and that's how you move forward with people, and that's the human existence, is how you connect with others. So I think it's
Mm.
great that utilizing AI in that way to remove the noise, as you said, to focus on what truly matters.
Yeah. And I'm going to give you sneaking an example. And so in order to prepare for this interview, this podcast, I stalk on your podcast. I fed some transcripts into it. I know kind of like the ICP of your podcast. And I use something called Notebook LM by Google.
Mhm.
And you can put in a video or transcript or PDFs or something like that. And then it will play back as a podcast. But there's a cool feature, right? It's called, what is that called? Raise your hand or call in or something. So it's just like two people doing a video talk show. And then you can just call it in and say, oh, by the way, I have these questions about what is Mario and Jess going to most likely ask me about the human prospect of AI. And then it's going to answer the question. And I can continue to call in and say, no, I want to follow up on that. So that is going to take care of all the rehearsal. So my mind is somewhat more quiet. And particularly after this, the mindful moments, the couple of minutes that we did ahead of time, I'm showing up more ready than I would otherwise.
Definitely. I have not heard of the call-in feature for that. So that is really cool to learn about. I'll have to check it out.
Yes, it is. You can't really change the voice, so it's always the same. I think two familiar voices that everyone, if they make a recording of it, everyone is going to have the same voices. Pretty soon you can get a transcript and then put in an 11 lap or something like that. And voila, it will be you and Mario, making a show with a couple prompts.
Right. You could practice in real time.
Yeah.
We're about to be replaced real quick. Yeah, with that in mind, speaking on the topic of clearing the noise and staying focused, I know for me personally, and I've shared on this podcast in the past, like I'm so excited about AI and entrepreneurship and like starting new projects and startups. And, I have a few different co-founders, and it's easy to just get lost in that tornado of opportunity and newness. Like you said, it's like going to the farmer's market every Sunday, and it's like, whoa, there's new stuff, and you're so excited. How do you clear the noise, and how do you stay focused from, and maybe it's like a higher level personal philosophy for you on how you operate. But for me, I've had to put so much energy into just staying focused on like managing my time and stuff. So what are some things that you do to stay focused among the AI storm?
So the conventional wisdom in the valley, it has always been like, ideas are cheap. It's a dime a dozen, right? That was before AI came along. Now, I think there's a little deflation in there as well. So like I was alluding earlier, you can do brainstorming 24/7, 365. So now you can have ideas. Now you can have a prototype using Lovable or something like that. It boils down to execution and I think the human connection too, right? Those are the key. Now, it still feels very scary. And the riches are in the niches, right? I started out, I'm going to do automation for the financial world. That statement itself is a little problematic. That is just such a wide net. As a small upstart or startup, how I'm going to capture that? How I'm going to find these people? Do I find a conference and somehow make my way to pay my $10,000 admission fees to go to this conference and talk to this financial industry people? And first, conferences are usually not handled that way unless you go to RSA or Dreamforce or something mega. It's pretty topical. So I think when you're starting a business, it should be also that way. Solve one, at most two problems within an archetype, within an industry, even sub-industry, whatever you can have access to. I mean, somewhere you're going to have some unfair advantages. Find that and exploit the advantages. Otherwise, it's going to be fair hard. You're going to be just average at best, maybe playing catch up. I was on the way home from Saratoga. I was listening to this old audiobook called 10x. 10x of performance. Like don't compete, dominate. Right? It's a little easier said than done, but the mentality makes sense. If you're doing something that somebody else is already doing in a different industry or similar industry, you merely following. Find something that you can dominate and then make your own rules.
Yeah, and you can't dominate if you're just casting a broad net over the whole world, right? I think that's great advice. It's something I needed probably 2 years ago. And, even if you did tell me, I probably would have needed to learn it on my own. It's like painful lessons that I've had to learn for sure is niche, 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 like you need to help with one specific thing in one area, or else, yeah, it's very difficult to market. It's difficult to help people.
Yeah.
Difficult to stay focused with your time.
And I do appreciate, and I came from that exact journey not that long ago. Is that it's scary to pick one niche. What if it's wrong? Then it's money down the drain. Well, I'm pretty sure if you cast a wide net, you're not gonna even find the feedback that you're wrong. You're gonna have the false hopes and dreams. And one thing I learned is very vivid is from the Shift 3430, and it's an online writing cohort. And they advocate just picking one topic and write the heck out of it. You go post on Twitter or X, 3 times a day, get the feedback, know what is engaging, what is performing, and then you just double down, like martingale. Martingale, you double down when you lose, but when you win, you double down. And if it is not working, it's okay. It's easy to pivot. I say, oh, what if people know me for that topic? Nobody knows you for nothing. Nobody cares enough. The attention span is as long as a goldfish. So it's pretty risk-free to be pivoting until you find your own niche and your own riches.
Great advice. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks so much. Kind of expanding on that, would you recommend something or a niche that you're passionate about specifically? Or would you recommend just kind of shooting for something that probably no one is talking about?
It would be great, Jess, if you find the Venn diagram, the sweet spot of the two, because it is going to be a long game. Say that you are doing this for the long haul, not like I'm doing it, for 6 months kind of thing. You could be for it for a couple of years, if not a couple of decades. And so you better find something that you feel passionate about because it's going to be with you for a long haul. But you also don't want to find something that's so not marketable. Like I been running workshops and I always love this ridiculous use case. It's like cat walking. I have this cat walking service idea. There's no competition. I think I'm going to dominate. Absolutely true. But I think cats don't walk all that much. Right there, there's no demand. So find something that are more revenue generating. And if you guys follow Alex Homasi, he categorized is 3 things, right? Wealth, health, relationships, status. Those are the 3 things that tend to do pretty well. And then you find your passion, and then you triangulate and you find something, you try them out, a couple of them. I think there's not a bad blueprint to kind of narrow down the choices.
Awesome. Thanks for that. That was
Absolutely.
very insightful.
You're taking notes. Health, wealth, relationship, status.
Yes. So looking ahead, if you were mentoring a new founder in 2025, how would you guide them to use AI wisely from the start?
Yes. So I think it really boils down to the human outreach. So AI can scale your reach, right? You can make posts, you can make even videos, but the real relationships drive the impact. So ultimately, you really have to get out of the shell. I am an introvert, so sometimes doing outreach, making calls, sending an email, it feels like I'm nagging, feels like I'm needy. You got to get out of that. I would like you to first think about, first you've done your triangulation, you identify your niches that you feel passionate about, and you're finding a pretty good product, right? Say that you've done the homework. Now you need to get it out there to people's hands, get some feedback, and make it better. I know it sounds scary. As soon as you hit that publish or a release button, it becomes widely available. Now you're going to face scrutiny. Your parents going to say, oh, you're ashamed of the family. No, You build it, people still probably don't come. You're going to take a lot of hustling to make them come. So it is truly just get it out there, ship it often, build in public if you are there. Actually, is a good framework to do it and get the feedback and iterate. And it boils down to like, reach out. Say, hey, I just saw you register for my beta, Jess. Can I hop on a Zoom with you for 10 minutes and get your feedback? And I'm going to do the same to Mario. I'm going to do that, 50 to the customers. If you get 50 customers, right? Get the feedback and then just relentlessly iterate and improve.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I'm actually part of this organization called Women Defining AI. And basically, like, the main point of it is to build in public, so it's a whole organization and they want you to share your things, share your tools that you built and things that you built with AI and just put it out there. Be bold with it. My background on my iPhone is the doors will be open to those who are bold enough to knock. And I just really love that
Beautiful.
quote because it's so true. You got to put yourself out there and push forward and be relentless, like you were saying. So great
So
advice.
Jess, I want to follow up on that. Like, what kind of a camaraderie are you getting from this group?
Yeah, so I've been in it for a couple months now. What I have been taking from it so far is just learning the basics of AI. So they have module courses. And so one was like a 5-week long module course on understanding prompt engineering and understanding multimodal models, and then eventually building your own custom GPT. And then they had another course where it was an introduction to vibe coding. So I learned,
Wow.
going from an idea to actually building something in a whole and actually like publishing it on or sell. So
Amazing.
yeah, so it's been really awesome to learn so far.
Yeah.
I think there's some channels where you can just like input some, questions that you may have or, projects that you're working on, and people will come back and, give you some feedback on it. And there's also some like subgroups in between there, that one's called like together, build together, and like highlighting HER.
Okay.
So it's like a building group together. There's another one that they're doing a hackathon. So I think it's a really great organization to really start building and learning a lot about AI.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So it all boils down to reps, right? You do
Yes.
more reps, you can become better. But how do you make sure the consistency is built in? Community, the tribe, the accountability, and everyone is going through that. Maybe they come from different level of technical competency, but everyone is kind of like pushing beyond the envelope a little bit. So that kind of support and then that kind of cohort is going to be very meaningful for a long time.
Definitely. Yeah, I think what you mentioned in there is like so key, right? It's building that community. So, if you have an idea, you have your niche, you'll find those people with common interests who have those same views, and you come together and you build together and grow together. And I think that's so important to growth and entrepreneurship. Another question. So, in your view, what skills will define the most resilient and creative entrepreneurs in an AI driven future?
Wow, it's truly hard to predict. Like Google has been pushing out product instead of 8 months, now it's like every month there's some new thing. So it's really hard to predict. Curiosity and maybe. So there is this term just picked up again from Alex Hormozi, is like, in the traditional education world is thinking about convergent. You want to drive to an answer like doing algebra, right? You want to get to x equal 5. That's what you try to get to. And Alex was talking about some divergent, more like what if scenarios. So with access to AI, you can really look at 2 or 3 what if scenarios. And then, basically it permutates, right? 2 plus 2 is 4. 2 times 2 is 4. But when you got 4 possibilities with 4 different ways, it becomes a lot more. With AI, you can really ask those questions and then kind of look at the spectrum before you make an informed decision, and your informed decisions is quite packed with intel now. So be able to leverage that model as AI improves better, and then you're going to have that whole game planned, right? Say, if this happens, I'm going to switch gear. So you're going to have that decision tree pretty built out. And it's funny, I don't know what I was using. I think I was using Gemini or Notebook LM or something. It was giving me a mind map. I got like a 60 pages PDF. Didn't have time to look at all of it. So I put that into Notebook LM, and there was a prompt that was new. That was like a couple of weeks ago. Create this mind map. And I love mind map, but it was very easy to build. And bam, I think it was maybe half a minute. I got this mind map. I can expand, collapse. I can look at this stuff. And it was such a, for my mind, I love to look at things in a very structured way. So 60 pages of PDFs, it turn into like, I don't know, 50 notes, and you can expand. And it's like, oh, that doesn't really apply to me. I can just move on to different topics and dig into it. So Mario, I noticed you got that smile. Are you playing with it, or you actually have some experience?
Well, it's just funny because, information is so abundant now. And yeah, like for some research that I did recently, I had 3 different AI platforms do deep research on a startup idea. And then I had GPT summarize. I uploaded all 3 of those. I'm like, I don't have time for this. Like, turn this into a 1-pager so I can talk to my co-founder about it. And I'm just laughing because the amount of information that we have at our fingertips is just more than we have time to even read. So summarizing, and I'm just seeing a trend in this episode of like the importance of higher level understanding and functioning and like higher level decision making and stuff.
Yeah, and I think you talking about curiosity and adaptability, I think that's what I got from your answer to that question, is like these 2 things will be so important for entrepreneurs in this world of AI, because AI can just spit out a lot of answers and a lot of words and a lot of information to you, but like what is the true meaning and true like thought behind that, and like where do you want to go from that? So I think it'll be really key for them to take a step back and look at the information, or not the whole 60 page, but the 1-page summary, and take that into account and understand what it's feeding them, but then also how am I going to use this? And adaptability will be huge because of how fast our world is changing right now, how fast AI is coming and changing, how short attention spans are. I think, and I heard this somewhere recently, someone was saying like instead of a career being 40 years long, they're going to have like little short careers here and there, like maybe a project that's like 8 months long, and then you move on to the next project that's a year long. And I think that could be the new world of work. So I think being adaptable can be a huge skill to learn.
Yeah. And to kind of follow up on both you, Jess, and Mario, so that long PDF with the curiosity and all that became a 1-pager, but Mario still synthesized that and presents that to the co-founder or the stakeholders, right? So, and this was one of the podcasts a couple months ago, and my podcast host put it so well. So I running my mouth, say, "So Ken, did I hear that?" He's got a little Australian accent or South African accent. That the better questions you ask, the better answers you get. So from the 60 pages to that 1-pager, now Mario is able to ask really good questions and drive to the better decisions, right? So that fundamentally it comes from the curiosity and adaptability, because like it is evolving so fast.
You mentioned decision tree too. That to me seems incredibly important with all of the noise, and part of that kind of quieting the noise is having your own decision tree, your own structure for how you operate and process and how and when and where you pivot. And, so I think those are all incredibly important. I'm glad that you mentioned that.
So Paul Graham a while ago said, you want to do the stuff that doesn't scale, especially as a founder. So you got to do it. You got to, make those calls one-on-one for 50 people, the first 100 people, and whatever. But at some point, you're going to have to scale, right? If it's taking off, you want to have the SOP. And a decision, it just makes it very simple. You drive from the decision tree and say, well, from the decision tree, I want to make it into a checklist in a SOP. As you scale from one person to 2 to 10 and whatever. And so that is one of my often go to say, hey, turn that into a SWOT, turn that into a SOP. And then if I'm doing like a product selection thing, I was just like working on the web framework, Next.js versus Astro. It was like a real case. And Next.js very capable. You can build a lot of data-rich applications, and it's mobile responsive already, all that good stuff. But if you want to make a static blog site or static like landing pages and things like that, that's not the quickest. It's just like you got to jump through a couple of hoops. So after like 20 minutes, I decided Astro is the framework to replace. I've been using Hugo for a few years now. And I started using the prompt. And then another 15 minutes later, I got Astro site, and I got 2 of them up now. Push it to the out. All of that was done over one night when my wife was watching Last of Us.
Amazing.
The later episodes weren't that good. I'm sorry to give it away, but that's why I couldn't really watch it.
Yeah, the importance of resilience, is coming up again with when I hear your share, because it's like, yeah, you can go and chat with GPT all you want about starting a business, but the 99% of your time, if that's all a good idea and it works and customers show up, is you doing the thing, developing the business, creating SOPs and systems and hiring and all of that, and managing the whole process. Very good to know. Very good advice for any listeners who might be interested in starting their own business, who are just getting into entrepreneurship, or maybe you are already into entrepreneurship and you know that it's very painful and it's a long road that requires resilience. So I'm gonna promote you as a mentor. I think you're just a great mentor for people like me and Jess, who are interested in AI and interested in entrepreneurship. So thank you for all of your insights today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really honored.
What would you say if there's one key takeaway for our listeners today? What would you want them to take away from this episode from you?
So I have a challenge for you. So identify 5 most meaningful connections in your personal and professional network. Only 5. Spend 5 minutes using your favorite AI tool. Do some brainstorming. It's kind of like the parameter search, right? Look for an angle that you might not have thought about before, about each person. And then personalize it, hyper personalize it, because right now the draft is already done for you. So now I want you to hyper personalize it, add some personal insights, some backstories, whatever it is, and then reach out to them and see what happens. So Mario, you're talking about resilience. I didn't want to kind of bring in my medical journey the past 14 months, but I just recovering from cancer and chemo radiation and all that stuff. And I was reaching out to people so much, way more than when I wasn't sick. And those rekindled connections have opened up so many doors in unimagined ways. So I am grateful of the sickness because it's got my tribe even closer. So that's why I got the challenge. I would love your audience to kind of try that out.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate how much you've brought humanity into this episode, and it's like some people may think we're bringing in, a startup AI extraordinaire and he's going to talk all about tech and technology. But yeah, it's all about our human connection. That's the whole point of this show. So beautiful.
Yeah, Kenneth, thank you so much for joining us today. I think Mario did a great job with summarizing all that you shared with us. I think your experience with AI and with technology, but also, how you really put the Zen in Zen biz and bring that human connection and really highlighted those human aspects of working alongside technology, I think is so important and so aligned with our purpose here, as Mario said. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and all that you shared with us.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Jess and Mario. And I would love to stay in touch. Anybody who wants to reach out, I will be at zenbiz.co. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. I frequent there, talk about the journeys, talk about the mishaps. I'm pretty public about my learning journey. So I would love to connect with you guys.
Awesome.
Episode 5 will be AI and creativity. What happens to human artistry? This is a very big topic, as GPT and other apps are allowing us to be incredibly creative very quickly, or at least produce art very quickly. So that will be our next episode for episode 5.
Feel free to subscribe and join us online to share your thoughts about this episode, anything that you want us to talk about. We'd love to hear any feedback. We are Beyond Evolution on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, and you can listen on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, and Substack.
Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us today. My name is Mario, signing off.
And I'm Jess. We always like to end our podcast by reminding you that while this world of AI and what it means for humanity beyond evolution can be exciting yet uncertain, it's a journey of growth. So keep learning, keep evolving, and allow yourself to just be. Thanks so much.
All right. Yay.
Wow.
High five. Did it.